Hey guys, good morning. Coach Jen T here. Happy Tuesday to you. So today we're just going to go over some food logging tips. And the reason for this is because a lot of my clients, when you join my program for a 4-week nutrition reset, we do log our food just to see where we're at. And so I have a few food logging tips that you can take with you. And even if you're not logging your food, there might be some tips in this video that have to do with things like portion control, which is a huge weakness for a lot of people, going a little overboard on portions. Just some little tips on how to take control of your serving sizes and things like that. So I've got a few props here. I've got my computer. That's why I'm sitting instead of standing and hopping all around my kitchen. But we're gonna just go over these food logging tips. And then if you have any questions, feel free to post a question in the comments, or feel free to reach out to me directly, and I am happy to help you because that is my passion. That's what I do, whether or not you are a client that's working with me directly or not. So first of all, food tracking. Why do we food track, right? Food tracking, logging everything you're eating and drinking can be a little bit tedious, can be a little bit annoying. There is such thing as tracking fatigue, where you feel like you're just constantly tracking all the time. But the amazing thing with tracking your food is that you just get to see what your nutrition looks like on a daily basis. I mean, you don't need to obsess over it, but how many calories are you taking in a day over the average of the week? It's not how on point am I eating Monday through Friday. It's what am I doing Monday through Friday, but also what am I doing on the weekends? What am I doing when I'm going out with my friends or when I'm going to that birthday party? Whatever it is, it's not what you do perfectly for 3 days of the week. It's what you do as an average over the course of the 7 days of the week. I am the first one to tell you and agree with you that a lot of my clients say, weekends are so hard. Well, if you track on the weekends, it just helps you bring awareness and accountability and data collection to what you are taking in. So it helps you, maybe make a little bit better choices and not mindlessly munch on that bag of chips at the barbecue. But also just it helps you make those tiny bit better choices. Someone might say, oh my gosh, I went way over my carbohydrate budget for the night because I ate way too many chips. But guess what? They logged everything and they admit that they ate far less, or went less overboard than if they weren't tracking at all. Food logging and food tracking is not for everyone, but it is one tool that you could put in your tool belt if it's something you're willing to try, that has proven to be very effective, even if you're logging temporarily. Again, tracking your food is simply a way of collecting data and bringing awareness to your intake. And if you are in a coaching program, it's also a great form of accountability and guidance on what your nutrition looks like and how we can improve it just a little bit. So things we look at are your calorie intake, right? How many calories are you taking in a day? Also your micronutrient intake, your fiber. How much fiber are you taking in? If you're getting plenty of fiber, this tells us that you are adding plenty of nutrient-rich whole foods, things such as fruits and vegetables, whole grains, healthy starches. We want to make sure you're getting enough fiber in your diet to help with not only digestion, but also help you stay full longer between meals. We also check out your protein. We make sure that you're eating plenty of protein to support body fat loss, if that's your goal, or weight maintenance, or boosting your metabolism and preserving that lean muscle. And again, protein is the number one nutrient that A, is hard to get for most people, and B, is the number one to support weight loss goals and keeping you full in between meals. So if you get plenty of protein into your diet, you're going to notice that you're full longer, you have more energy, you feel good in your workouts. You're going to notice you're starting to look, even though the scale might not be adjusting the way you want it to as quickly, you're going to notice that you're going to be looking leaner in those pictures, your progress pictures. So we focus on those. And then you've got your carbohydrates and your fats. Your carbs are your sources of fuel. everybody needs healthy fat in their diet for, hormone health, and it assists in weight loss when you're getting those healthy fats. So we want to make sure you have a good balance of those too. We're here to meet you where you're at. We want to make sure that you're, we look at what you're eating now and never expect it to change everything all at once. And we focus on one thing at a time. And I think that's one of the number one things that people say they really like about my program is I am here to meet you where you're at. We don't expect you to change everything at once because that's not sustainable. We focus on one thing at a time. So again, why we track is to bring awareness. That is it. It's like driving a car and not having blinders on. So you know what you're taking in. And if you can start by doing that for simply 7 days in a row and just see what things look like. MyFitnessPal is a free app that is very popular to track your food, but the one that we use in my program is Macros First, and that is also a free app, and it's just more focused on your macronutrients, which are protein, carbohydrates, and fats, just to help focus more on that instead of your calories. So just a few tips that come along with tracking. Number one, you guys, is to plan ahead. A little bit of planning goes a long way. You don't want to feel like you're on your phone all the time, like trying to track your food. So if you know what's in stock in your cupboards, in your pantry, planning ahead and logging those meals and pre-tracking ahead of time can really help you have a plan and stay on track. That especially is true for things like dining out. If you know you're going to be going out to eat, it's a lot harder to control your intake as you don't know how the portion sizes are when you're going out to eat or how your food is prepared, such as cooking oils, such as the salt that people are adding, the chefs are adding into your meals. So it's harder to control, but looking at the menu ahead of time and trying to focus on, finding a meal that's more nutrient rich with some lean protein, with some veggies, and determining what you really want. Pre-tracking everything ahead of time, you guys, can really help you wear off that tracking fatigue, but also having a plan. So like, for example, if you're going to a party or going out and you know what you're going to have, you have that set in place. You might not follow it perfectly, but you at least have those boundaries and expectations set for yourself so you can move through your time with intention, and you can also just be more mindful, have a plan. It takes the thinking out of it so you can more enjoy like the experience of the things that you're doing. So the other thing is using a food scale. So when you're tracking your food, it's totally up to the client or to the person, but logging your food with a food scale, measuring cups and tablespoons, measuring are fine, but a food scale gives you the most accuracy, and it doesn't have to be that way, but if you want accurate or precise results, then you do need to track your food just for a very short while. And this is a tip that you can take with you even if you're not tracking your food, because our portions can be so distorted with what we think is a serving size on a label and what isn't. So logging your food and using a food scale can be very helpful. And I have just a little prop for you to show you. Food scales don't have to be fancy. This one I've had forever. Clearly it's all scratched up. So this is the Eat Smart brand, but you can get a simple scale like this for really cheap on Amazon or go to Walmart. Then they do come pretty fancy. I have this one. This has nutrition facts. I really don't use this, but you can get a more fancy one. But when you're looking at something on a label, so for example, when you're looking at nutrition facts, this is just some nut butter, some coconut nut butter. So if you're looking here, you can see that a serving size is 2 tablespoons, or in little right here, it says 32 grams in weight. So having a food scale, knowing 32 grams in weight is 1 serving, that's 190 calories. So if you're logging your food, there's 2 ways you can do it. One, let's say you're having a piece of toast, you can put your toast on your scale. You can tear it out to 0 grams, and you can put your toast on there, and you can just take some nut butter, spread it on your toast that way. Another really simple way that you can use your food scale to measure out anything that's in a bigger package is put your big package on the scale. It's gonna tell you what the weight of the whole thing is. Hit tare, which will zero it out. Then you take your butter off, or you can use this for things like a carton of egg whites or a package of like some kind of vegetable or a bag of chips, or whatever it is. Take your package at that point, use what you want to use, put the cover back on. Once you take it out, put it on the scale, and then it will give you a negative number, and that's how many grams in weight your food is. It's super simple once you practice it, and that is really only something you need to do for a short while to make sure that you are getting accurate portions, because I could easily eyeball 2 tablespoons of something like nut butter and maybe get like a quarter cup. So it makes a big difference when you're tracking just anything to look at your grams and weight on a food scale. The other thing you can use, you guys, is ounces. So you can change it from grams to ounces. And I use ounces typically a lot for things like meat, because I want to make sure that I am getting enough protein. I've had clients that say, oh, I thought I was getting, a 4 to 6 ounce portion of chicken breasts or whatever it might be, but I was actually getting less than that. So you're not getting as much protein as you think you are. And that is huge when you're trying to, build lean muscle, work on your athletic performance, work on your body composition. So having that food scale, you guys, doesn't need to be all or nothing. And you're not expected to bring your food scale out with you. But having it at home and preparing food at home just to see what things look like for you can really help you dial in those portions even for a short while. The next thing we have, I did already talk about it, but tare on a food scale is your friend. So if you have like a bowl and you're going to be assembling some things, you can always hit tare to zero it out and start over with whatever else you're tossing in. So like if I'm going to throw in salsa, it's that many in weight, and then I'm gonna hit tare, it's gonna zero it out. You're gonna throw in your rice or your beans or your corn or whatever it is into your bowl. You just keep zeroing it out, so it helps you just figure out what you're assembling. That being said, people have asked me, what do I do when I create like a fancy recipe, or when I'm making like a casserole or all kinds of things and I'm having one portion? My best suggestion, you guys, is to not dwell on perfection. We've talked about that a million times, but like, just if you're making lasagna or some certain casserole, check the database out for lasagna or casserole and just take a wild guess on what you're having rather than driving yourself crazy trying to do each ingredient. Unless you're at a point when you're basically, at your maintenance level of calories and you're trying to maybe lose that last 2 pounds that you really want to lose, that might be when you might want to be more accurate. But if you're just like trying to be healthy and trying to make sure you're managing your lifestyle in a healthy, balanced way, keep it simple, choose something easy, don't spend too much time on it. That's another tip that I have for you. The other thing is make sure you are accounting for all of those added condiments and those added cooking oils, especially if you are being coached. It is important to make sure that you are as accurate as possible when you're logging. So things like the olive oil that you're cooking in, or things like the ketchup or the barbecue sauce that you're using, those kind of condiments and cooking oils add up, and you don't realize how much like calories and fat add up, or carbohydrates from sweetened things like ketchup or barbecue sauce. Those add up, so make sure you are accounting for those when you are tracking, because if not, and you're having it a lot in the day, you're not going to realize how much you're getting in that unless you're bringing awareness to it. The other thing is make sure that you know the method of which you're tracking. So for example, cooked versus raw. Typically when you're looking up something like sirloin steak or chicken breasts, if it doesn't say cooked, then it is in its raw form. I personally don't weigh my my meats raw. I weigh them when they're cooked out. So you typically want to choose the cooked version in your database, like cooked chicken or cooked vegetables, because cooked versus raw meats and cooked versus raw vegetables is much different. As a general rule of thumb, if you are having cooked chicken, 4-ounce portion of cooked chicken, it's typically about 5 ounces of raw chicken. So it's about 1 ounce off. Just a general rule of thumb there. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's just a way to try that out and make sure that you are getting the right portion. The other thing when you're looking at like a pasta label, that pasta weight is actually grams raw in its raw form. It's not, unless it says cooked pasta, then you want to make sure that you're measuring that out accurately too. The other thing we've already said, you guys, don't dwell on perfection. Don't get caught up in the nitty-gritty. Getting too obsessive over food tracking can really take the fun out of it, and it can really affect your relationship with food. It can. So it's okay to eyeball, it's okay to estimate, it's okay to not feel like you have to be perfect. Even if you are 60% accurate, you're still going to get 60% of the results that you want. So it's all in what you want, what works for you. It does not need to be perfect. You don't need to dwell on that perfection. There also might be a really fun weekend coming up that you want to just relax. Especially for me, you guys, like I go camping all the time, off the radar. You don't need to be perfect. You can take breaks from tracking. It really can help the brain. I have some clients that are like, I'm going to track Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday is going to be my mindful intuitive eating day, and I'm not going to track it all. Hey, you're the driver of your journey. It doesn't need to be perfect, and we're going to trial and error and learn, and with patience, things are really going to get nailed down on what works for you to help you get the results that you need. So it's just all about being patient as you learn. Learning from failures is not failing, because you are learning. Ask yourself in any situation, like looking back, what could I have done 1% better moving forward? And that's what I'm going to do, that one thing a little bit better. And that can really help you take control of your weekends too. Another thing that I always say to my clients is practice that 10-second rule. If it takes you more than 10 seconds to track an item or find it or log it or whatever, let go of it. Don't do it, because that is what can drive you crazy. Practice that 10-second rule. And if you don't find what you're looking for or can't do it in less than 10 seconds, don't worry about that item, move on, and we'll talk about it and we'll figure it out later. The other thing, we already talked about it a little bit, but like the condiments add up, but also being honest with yourself. So like if you're cooking, I have a lot of clients that say they're cooking and the lick of the spoon or the bite of the cookie dough or the taste test of that sauce that you're making, you guys, that all adds up. That's another way tracking can help you be mindful of that, but make sure you are trying to like log everything at first, just to see where you're at. Again, those bites of whatever it is, the taste test, the licking of the spoon, those all add up. So trying to be accurate with it, even if you can't be, just knowing that, okay, this week I did lick the spoon or eat the rest of the cookie dough in the bowl and I didn't track it. That's okay, as long as you know that and your coach knows that. No problem, no judgment, no guilt. Today's a new day, but at least knowing that, maybe those little things are sneaking up on you and you don't know if you're not tracking it. The other thing is alcohol. As you know, I love my beers. They add up in calories. So you want to make sure that you are logging alcohol. And what's great about Macros First is there is a convert to alcohol macros. So that gives you a good carb fat balance. Basically takes your calories that are in alcohol and it accounts for them in the version of calories, not only calories, but carbs and fats. So don't forget, if you are logging alcohol in Macros First, to click that convert to alcohol macros. Alcohol adds up, as do any other liquid calories. So if you're adding cream to your coffee, if you're stopping at the coffee shop and you're having that, mocha frappe, latte, whatever it might be, those calories add up too. So make sure you're tracking those, you're tracking those glasses of wine or that beer or that cocktail. Make sure you're logging it temporarily if you are going to start tracking, just to keep yourself aware, collection of the data. So that's it, you guys, for some, food logging tips. Again, that is just one tool in your tool belt to bring awareness to your intake. It doesn't need to be perfect. What we typically do is we start off, we try to be as accurate as possible for only 4 weeks. That's not too long of a time, but that just helps you see where you're at. And I do find a lot of my clients actually need more food than they think they do. And so a lot of times they're just not eating enough. They're way, way short on protein. Maybe on the weekend, they're like, whoa, I went way overboard on my calories. It's simply awareness. And the whole point of coaching is to give you the guidance and support you need without judgment. So it's just to find those small things to tweak. And again, without judgment, there's always some sort of idea or thought that you never would have thought of that can be a total game changer for how you can get closer to your results without being perfect. You've got to live your life, you guys. You've got to enjoy those treats. You've got to enjoy whatever kind of special beverage. You've got to go to the birthday parties. You've got to enjoy the barbecues. You've got to enjoy the beaches. You've got to enjoy the friends. It's all about learning what works for you, balancing that lifestyle to feeling healthy and taking care of yourself, but also being there for the people that need you, the life demands, the work, being a mom, being a dad, whatever it is. There's so many things to balance, and taking control of your nutrition does feel disciplined sometimes, but that discipline leads to so much freedom when it comes to knowing what you're doing to take care of yourself. That being said, I think that's all I have today, you guys. So if you have any questions about tracking, feel free to reach out to me, or you can comment here. And again, you guys, tracking is not for everyone. And if it's not, that is totally okay too. What our goal is in my program is to simply start tracking, bring awareness, and then move to a more intuitive approach once you realize how to build a healthy, balanced meal, and what tools you can use to develop those healthy habits over time sustainably, so that eventually you can take those training wheels off. You don't need to log your food after 4 weeks or even beyond. And then if you ever need to dial it back in, you can, but it's all flexible. And that's what we're about here, is the flexibility. Have a good day.